guys, I'm here today to do my first of 3 TBR videos for May. So in April I took part in 3 readathons and I really loved it. I usually love making readathon TBRs but not following the TBRs, but I actually found at the moment with the whole stay at home situation it's been really helpful to limit my reading choices to sort of 20 to 25 books and just pick from that smaller selection without being overwhelmed by all the other books I have in the house. So I'm going to carry that on for May. There's some really great readathons going on in the month of May, so it's been really helpful. And I have quite a bit of time off in May. I actually booked a week off for my 30th birthday and we were planning on going away. Obviously not going to happen now, so that's fine. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the whole week off or if I'm going to cancel some of my annual leave. I'm intrigued to know what everyone else's perspective is on taking annual leave during this time. My work's being really good in that they're letting us cancel annual leave and perhaps carry it over to the next calendar year because of the situation. And I know lots of people I work with are like, there's just no point in having annual leave when you can't do anything other than stay at home. And I get that perspective, but I also think that it's quite a stressful time at the moment and working from home isn't particularly pleasant, and so maybe it would be nice to have a bit of a break from it. So what do you guys think? I'm still dithering whether to cancel some of it or all of it or none of it, I don't know. So the first readathon I'm going to talk about is the Asian Readathon. In the month of May in the US it is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and so Cindy over at Read with Cindy celebrates that by hosting the Asian Readathon. I'm going to link the video about that down below so you can go and check it out. There's quite a few prompts and there's a group read and there's some really great tools for finding recommendations, so it's definitely worth checking that video and that channel out. So I'm not following any of the prompts because I'd already chosen my TBR before that video went up, but the prompts are pretty loose, so to be honest probably I could, if I wanted to, shoehorn books in to fit the prompts, but I'm too lazy to do that. So I have, I think, 7 books to talk about. I'm going to limit myself to 7. I have a lot more on my shelves that I'm also interested in, and I also have a lot of books on audio, but I think if I go more than about 7 it's getting a bit excessive and I might not get to, you know, that many of them. So we're going to stick with this core group that I'm super interested in. So firstly I have 2 I've had from the library for a while, and obviously I don't have to return them anytime soon. This one is The Body Papers, a memoir by Grace Talusan. Grace Talusan was born in the Philippines in the 1970s. Her family moved to the US and they lived in a small Catholic community, and her grandfather was abusing her. So in this time when she could barely speak any English, she was feeling really ostracised from all the other children at school. You know, this place where she went to feel safe. She didn't feel safe, and she also didn't feel like she could vocalise it because of how strictly Catholic her family were and how they just didn't discuss things like that. And so this is her as an adult going back and finding documents that support memories of her childhood in order for her to piece that narrative together. I think that sounds like a really interesting way to structure a memoir, and I'm very intrigued by this one. I noticed that this won the Restless Books Prize for New Immigrant Writing, and I checked that out because I was like, oh, it'd be cool to see what books were longlisted, but it's actually one of those prizes where you submit your manuscript and then if you win they publish it, so it's not like there's a big long list that I can access. But it's definitely a prize I will look out for now to see what other ones win. I think it's every 2 years, so, or maybe 1 year it's fiction, the next non-fiction, and then following on. So there's that one. The other one I have up from the library is This Land is Our Land, an Immigrant's Manifesto by Suketa Mehta. I apologise, I'll probably butcher lots of people's names in this video, but I will attempt to, you know, look into the names properly when I want to review them. So this author was born in Calcutta and they moved to the US, and this is a non-fiction book all about immigration. It's all about the idea that white people went to all these countries, colonised, took things, took people to make a profit out of, and then when those people generations later travelled to their countries, America and the UK, we then turned around and went, what do you think you're doing? This is our country. Like, no, we took your stuff but you can't take ours. And this is about that, and just based on the introduction alone I think this is going to be really powerfully written, so I'm very excited to get to it. And that was just one I stumbled across in the library, so that was a really lucky find. Then this next one I've had for 3 or 4 years, which is so embarrassing, and I'm convinced I could really love this author's work, so just annoying, I know we all do this. So this is The Border of Paradise by Esmé, Weijun, Wang. So I was kindly sent this from the publishers back in 2016, 2017. They're called Unnamed Press. They're a brilliant indie press in the US. Their books are beautifully packaged but also just really interesting, a really diverse publication, so I really recommend having a look into them. And I have been intrigued by this book since I was sent it, but I've always shied away from it because I think it's supposed to be pretty bleak. It's set in post-war Brooklyn. We follow a man who is from a Polish immigrant background, and he marries a woman he meets in Taiwan and brings her back to the US with him. And it's about them raising their children in this time period. And I believe the father suffers severe depression and suicidal thoughts. And it's sort of following them around that story and how it affects their family. So, as I said, I'm convinced I could really love this author's work. I have heard so many people rave about her essay collection, The Collective Schizophrenias, but I will not let myself buy it until I've read this one. So this is one I have to get to. This next one is one I got for Christmas, and it is The Atlas of Reds and Blues by Devi S. Laskar. This is about an American-born daughter to Bengali parents who is shot on her driveway, and as she is lying on her driveway dying, she's looking back on what led her to this moment, the racism that her and her family have faced that have led to this being a possibility, you know, that she could be shot on her own driveway. And this is told in vignette style, which is something I didn't realise before I bought this, because it's not published in the UK, so it's a book I got online without seeing it in physical form. So I'm intrigued to see how much I get on with this, because I don't tend to read narratives like this, but it makes sense in terms of what the novel's about, you know, the fact that she's lying there dying and it's these sort of flittering memories in those moments. So yeah, intrigued by this one. I think this may read a bit more like poetry than it does like a traditional novel, so there's that. And this next one I'm so excited about, and it just has a beautiful cover, so that obviously helps. And that is Bury What We Cannot Take by Kirstin Chen. This is set around the time where Chairman Mao reigned, and we follow a family who live on a small island. The grandson sees his grandmother take a hammer to a picture of Chairman Mao, and he dutifully reports that without realising the effect this will have on his family. So his family have to then flee the island in order to try and make it to mainland China, but they realise they can only take one of their children on the boat. And it's that question of, do we take the boy who has, you know, the one who's reported to grandmother, or do we take the sort of innocent child, the young girl? And it follows that story. I read the first few pages when I got it for Christmas, and it just immediately pulled me in, so I think this is going to be excellent. And then I ordered 2 books specially for this readathon because I really wanted to get to them. I don't have an indie bookshop in Norwich that is open with an online shop, so my local indie shop is open and you can call and see if they have certain books in stock, but I thought it was unlikely, the sort of books they carry, I thought it was unlikely they'd have these 2 in stock, so instead I ordered from Foyles. So if you do live in places where you don't have a local indie bookshop and you want to try and, you know, access an online shop, then Foyles is a place you could give a go if you're based in the UK. So I heard Chris from the channel Chris's Bookish Cauldron talk about this one, and I immediately wanted to read it. And that is Your House Will Pay by Steph. So this is set in the time after the 1992 LA race riots, and we're following a couple of groups of people and these families, and sort of following their stories and how they affect and intertwine. It says that we follow Grace Park and Sean Matthews, and it says Grace battles with confusion over her elder sister's estrangement from her Korean immigrant parents, and Sean tries to help his cousin Ray readjust to civilian life after years spent in prison. But what is it in their past that links these 2 families? So yeah, again, I think this could be a really excellent read, and I think it's going to be a bit faster paced than the books I usually pick up, and I sort of feel like reading books that have a slightly faster pace at the moment, so yeah, I'm hoping to really enjoy this one. And the last book I'm going to be reading hasn't arrived yet because it was on a slight delay when I ordered it from Foyles, and that's What Lies Between Us by Nayomi Munaweera. I read her essay in the collection What My Mother and I Don't Talk About, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. So I added her books to a video I did about authors I wanted to read for the first time. I mean, Nayomi Munaweera was a bit of a cheat because I had read an essay by her, as I said, but not a full book. I'll link that video up here if you want to hear me talk about other books that made it to the list and other authors. This is the story of a Sri Lankan girl who moves over to the US, and she grows up in the US as a teenager and starts to live an American teenager's life, which goes strictly against the way her family thinks she should be living, and this is really about the conflict between her and her mother. and based on having read that essay, I think this is going to be, you know, inspired by things that happened in the author's own life, and the essay was so beautiful, so I really feel like she's an author whose books I could enjoy. So those are all my high priority books for this readathon. However, as I said, I have lots more books in physical form that I would love to read for this readathon, and also lots of audiobooks, so I may manage more than these. We shall see. Let me know if you're going to be taking part in this readathon. I love these sort of readathons. I love getting recommendations, and I know I'll come out of this readathon just having so many more books added to my TBR, which is always wonderful. So yeah, I'd love to know if you've read these books, if you're planning on reading any of them, or if you're going to be taking part in the Asian readathon, which books you'll be picking up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!